Hello again, and welcome to the fourth hour. It's always so great to have you along. Thanks for being here. I've got to be really, really kind of candid with you today. I am running out of steam, and there are some other issues, that go on in the workplace that I'm having to deal with, and it's like, you know, as you can see, I don't have a lot of hair left, and so I, I get a little bit frustrated. So I had just been scrambling all day this week. It's been one of those weeks. So I'm really looking forward to the weekend. There were a couple of stories that I want to share with you this morning. But again, I apologize because, as I do this, I want to be able to go, hey, this, and this, and this, and this are going on. And I don't want the fourth hour to be a repeat of what you've been hearing on the radio show. I I feel really strongly about that because the podcasts are out there for you so that you can hear what's going on the air. You can listen live, obviously, over the radio. You can listen via the KELO app. There are a lot of ways for you to hear. So I don't want this to become a repeat of material that I've already touched on, unless I want to bring a different thought to it and that kind of thing. So there are a couple of things that were in my stack of stuff this morning that that I didn't get to on the air that I do want to share with you. And then there are a couple of other elements that I'll touch on, other stories that are happening this morning that I'll touch on as well. But this is a new study on religious views in the United States. And it finds that Americans' connection, this is from a piece at CNN. So keep that in mind. I'm just sharing what they're writing, and then we'll talk about it. Americans' connection to organized religion continues to fade. There are deep divides over the appropriate role for religion in American public life. Less than half of all adults now say religion is very important in their lives. That's down from majorities who felt that way in earlier studies. That a surprise? I mean, I don't find that to be surprising because I follow the news. I just look at other headlines and I go, yeah, that's pretty much what I see. Yeah, it's folks are not clinging to their, Bibles and so on. You remember that is 44% in the new poll say that they pray daily. That's down from majorities. You pray every day? I can tell you very honestly, very candidly, I pray every day. I pray every day, especially when I'm working in the morning. I pray nearly my entire commute to get to work. Not only for myself, but for my family, and very specific prayers that I put up. I pray for ever since my stroke. I pray every day for my doctors because I'm still blown away at the skill with which they, went in and put that stent in they went in through my leg, put a stent, moved it up through my body into my brain. Took them like nearly 8 hours. I think it took them that I was on the operating table. So about 8 hours, moving this thing through 6 to 8 hours. Was it 6? But it was a number of hours. 6 to 8 hours I'm out. They move that thing through my body. I pray for those folks every day. And for the miracles that they probably are bringing to other people as well, and being there for others. I'm just so grateful. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. But seriously. So I pray every single day. What about you? I mean, it's just a part of my routine. I pray in the morning. I pray before bed. I pray before every meal. I don't eat without prayer. So I am praying on and off, having conversations. There are other times where I just have a conversation with God, especially if I'm wrestling with something. It's unfortunate that more people are not finding prayer, But when you look at what's going on in the culture, is that a surprise? Sadly, it's not. Vast majority continue to say they believe in a God. I don't believe in a God. I believe in the God. I believe in the triune God. Others who say they believe in universal spirit. Anyway, this is coming from the Pew Research Center and their religious landscape study. Majority of Americans identify as Christian, 62%. So how is it, and this would be a question for Christians, if you got 62% saying they identify as Christians, why is it then that only 44% of Americans are praying every day? Oops. It's an interesting story. Where did I find that? Again, CNN. CNN had that story. And I think I had picked it up at Yahoo News. Yahoo News uses a lot of sources. CNN is one of a number of them. Also, you have hundreds of employees at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we're talking about government layoffs. We talked about that in the final hour of the program this morning. But NOAA employees, hundreds of them receiving pink slips, according to a number of news agencies. And this is part of the Department of Government Efficiency and their promise then to downsize the federal workforce. And then what we talked about on the air following that is, that beyond that, now the president's calling for more cuts. He wants to see more cuts. So what DOGE is doing is eliminating, probationary employees and those who are refusing to react and do what they're being asked, not showing up to work. That's easy. I think that's the easy work. Moving forward, Donald Trump is still saying that he wants to cut more. And we got some really great calls about that this morning on the air. I really loved the veterans who called in the 8 a.m. hour this morning. And I will post the show a little bit later if you didn't hear it live. I'll post the shows to KELO.com so you can listen. We had a number of veterans who called and said they don't believe that their care has subsided at all. They're very, very grateful for the attention that they have received at the VA. And they're not fearful. See, there's a lot of fear mongering that goes on. And especially right now, I think that's all the left's got. All they have is fear mongering. Oh, you got to be worried about this. Oh, you got to be deathly worried about this. And I used to be that guy. I would get worried. I would do what they told me. I would get worried about all this stuff. And you know what? Now I find, give me a break, man. It's just, the reason they're doing that is so they can implement their own agenda. I just not getting, don't worry about this stuff. Don't sweat it. And if there are issues and if the cuts go too far, then, and you're already seeing this, Elon Musk, they made cuts, and it's happened several times where Elon Musk is, and the Department of Government Efficiency, they made cuts, and then they've gone back and said, okay, this was a mistake. We need these folks back, or we need these folks, so on. We need these folks back, taking them back. So let's get past all of the hysteria, and the left. They just they love to bellyache and complain about a lot of this stuff. So the Again, I was mentioning NOAA and the cuts. Also, the Office of Personnel Management sent an email on Wednesday to remote workers, and I hadn't seen this until this morning. Newsmax had the story. This is yesterday. OPM sent an email to remote workers telling them that they are being relocated to Washington, D.C. They have until March 7th to decide whether to accept the move. So this memo says that if they decline to move to Washington, their options for continued employment with the agency may be limited, and the agency may pursue an adverse action against you. So in other words, you're fired, I think would probably be the adverse action that they might be taking. A couple of other stories I wanted to share, and I think this is some good news. Marco Rubio, this is a story from Breitbart. Marco Rubio telling Breitbart that his conversations with leaders across the Middle East suggesting a strong desire in the region to see expansion of the Abraham Accords. Donald Trump's a big proponent of that, and in fact, he brought that about in the first place. So Rubio saying, he thinks there is an opportunity to expand the Abraham Accords. And he gets into this. He said, assuming that happens, I do think you're going to see more countries entering into the Abraham Accords, which, keep in mind, was one of the most historic advances in Middle East peace in decades, which was widely mocked by Democrats. By the way, when it first happened, he said, we've now seen more and more countries, even quietly. I don't want to say who they are yet because they've been quiet about it, but we've had more and more countries sort of come forward and say they would like to join as well from the region, including Africa. So I think it's something we can build on. And to me, it would be one of the great developments of this term. So this is an interview that Marco Rubio did with Breitbart. And Rubio saying, I emphasize the war between Russia and Ukraine has to end in a way that is enduring, he says. So you can find more information on that. That's the big story this morning at Breitbart. And then the president also will be signing an executive order that will make English the official language of the United States. So Fox News confirmed this morning. So he will sign this later today, which rescinds a mandate issued by Bill Clinton in 2000 that required federal agencies and recipients of federal funding, and we talked about this on the show at the time, to provide language assistance to non-English speakers. And so going back to English, that is, I think, going to be pretty divisive. It'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of that. I welcome your thoughts, on all of these things that we discuss and talk about. So, though that's a quick look at some of the stories that I've seen this morning, I want to take a look at some of your comments and let's see what's going on in the comment section this morning. Steve says he's looking over some of the Epstein files that I could get my eyes on. Seems like a lot of redaction, huge disappointment. Now, let's wait and see. These have also, I was surprised that what they are doing with these files, and Steve's in a better position to know, he's online more than I am, I think. These are not being shared, then the files are not going to legacy media across the state or across the country, rather. it's not a broad release of these files. In fact, it's generally it's kind of targeted outlets that are receiving those files, and which I thought was that's kind of different. Seeing them released in that way, I would prefer to see a broader release, to folks throughout the country. David is saying, no, and I understand this. Sometimes we get a chance to comment on the stories you bring up. Not all of us can call in. Yeah, absolutely right. I understand that not everybody can call. That's one of the reasons that, I ask for emails and you hear me read them so often is because I want I want you to be able to share your thoughts with me. As we were talking about prayers, Steve says, I pray every day that today isn't the day I get walking papers. I do that on Friday because in my experience, when I've seen people being let go from, in broadcast companies, generally it's on a Friday. So if you wake up Monday and I'm not there, you'll know what happened. Let's see what else you're saying here. Melissa agreed that conversation with God especially matters. I don't know what I would do without faith and prayer. See, I feel very much the same way. Lauren is saying, yes, pray more now that I'm in peer. I bet. Lauren, I'll keep you in my prayers. That's a tough job that you've undertaken, actually. Kathy saying, yeah, I'm with Greg. Constant chats with God all day long. Yeah, I think you really have to. Otherwise, you can't have a relation. You can't build a relationship unless you have a relationship, right? So you have the relationship, but then what are you doing to increase the relationship? Are you trying to build the relationships with the people that you have in your life? I'll bet you are. I'll give you an example. Happened to me this week. I had a conversation with my little granddaughter. She is up in North Dakota, and I don't get a chance to see her very often. So she and I talked on the phone over the weekend, this past weekend, and it was wonderful. I just really had a great chat. She's telling me how she's feeling and, some problems she's having, and just really opened up to me. And she doesn't know me all that well because she doesn't get a chance to see me. And so I asked her, would you mind, Grandpa needs a pen pal. Will you be my pen pal? And she's like, I would love to be your pen pal. I would love to do that. So I sat down this week, bought myself some lined paper, and wrote about a 3-page letter to her. And this week, just as I told her, I promised her, I said, I will do that this coming week. Within the next few days, I will send you the letter. And I sat down, Wednesday afternoon, wrote the letter, put it in the mail Thursday morning on my way to work. And I want to grow that relationship with. So when it comes to God, don't you want to, we are working to grow our relationships with people in our lives all of the time. Don't you want to do the same with God? I think you do. And I think that's why, so many of us pray in the way that we do. All right, David is saying, my daughter thinks the U.S. will collapse with all these cuts. I hope that wasn't her who called this morning. Did you hear the woman who called this morning who was talking about the country's going to collapse and this is the end and these are the end times? And wow, man. And the number of calls that I received after that. If you missed that call, watch my social media, watch my Facebook, because I'm going to cut out just that call, and I'm going to post that to Facebook. So keep your eyes open there. Um, Melissa's telling David, hoping that he gets through to his daughter. And Melissa says, maybe you can get through to her. I can't with my children. Hang in there, Melissa. I understand. And I think there are times just, wait for opportunities to talk to your kids. I think that at least that's one of the things I tried to do. Yeah, Kathy's responding here to Julie. Julie, who called in this morning, sounded like she was reading most of the garbage that she was peeling. I didn't think so. No, I think that was absolutely her thoughts. Julie, as she called. Let's see what others of you are saying here. Yeah, and Lauren's coming back and saying, I'm a new state senator in Pierre till March 13th. She's saying that prayer, keeps me sane and grounded. Remember what's truly important. I agree with you. It keeps me grounded too. And when I'm making mistakes, and generally I know it. This is a mistake. What I find really helpful is when I'm having those moments where my thoughts are not good, because I think, we're all human and that's easy. And you get emotional about stuff and you hear somebody especially just with the amount of stupidity that's out there and going on right now. Prayer for me in those moments really makes a difference. And I wouldn't give it up. Steve saying, as we were talking about the Middle East and Marco Rubio, I don't doubt the leaders of the Middle East countries are eager to join the modern world, just pockets of terrorists, reluctant to not be barbarians. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. And Kathy, Melissa, long overdue to go back to only English. Why would anyone object to English being the official language? You'd have to ask others. I don't. Edgy. Always good to hear from you, Edgy. Kathy, liberals love the idea of minimizing English so as to push the idea of a globalist agenda. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. And I think that's where a lot of this stuff, comes from. Casey saying, of this being the official language, it's pretty obvious. I know Spanish because I was taught in middle school, took it through college. Got the guys I work with, some refuse English, but I know it, he's saying. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Melissa's saying she loves the pen pal between me and my daughter. Yeah. And David saying, Julie on the radio saying, I heard her, not my daughter, but it sounded like her. My heart goes out to you, David, because in some cases, I think you can't get through to folks. And it's a right to believe what you want to believe. And if you don't want to have conversations with others, so on, it's pretty crazy. Edgy saying, I think the Lord's Prayer, very elegant. I agree with that. With the benefit of being easy enough to say daily. I recite that to myself every morning. Yeah, you really have to make, I think, prayer a priority. Denise says, my work says a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Pretty cool. So thanks for sharing your comments with me. We're going to end it there for this week. You are part of my gallery of champions. You made it to the end of the video. Do me an additional favor and hit that like button before you leave. I would appreciate that so much. Have a wonderful weekend, okay? You better be here. I'm telling you, be here on Monday, or I'm sending out my teams to drag you in, drag you back here. So have a great weekend. I'll see you.